Welcome!
Personally speaking, when getting into a new anime series, I don't really like going in head first. Normally I scope things out a bit, see some images, maybe even get some info on the staff, or if an adaptation, some info on the original source material. After all, watching anime, or really any type of TV series, takes time, and considering now as an adult, I don't have that much time these days. So I like to make sure the next anime I'm getting into is something I genuinely want to see. But that changed with the focus of today's video. Kimagure Orange Road, a series I watched an entire 48 episode anime, an 8 episode OVA, as well as 2 movies, purely based on how much I like the series' aesthetic. Now I might go on a bit of a tangent here, but it's gonna loop back, I promise. I've never talked about it properly on my channel before, but I love city pop, which, if you don't know, is a term used for a type of pop music made in Japan in the late 70s and 80s that broke away from the norm of Japanese music at the time, incorporating elements of jazz, disco, funk, among many others to create a very unique type of sound that fit with the booming and luxurious atmosphere of Japan at the time. Well, I became a fan of the genre a little before the city pop classic Plastic Love by the forever amazing Maria Takeuchi found itself on everyone's YouTube recommendations, thanks to a few other genres of music being vaporwave and future funk that heavily sample city pop, and played a role in creating what we refer to as the city pop aesthetic, while also creating unique aesthetics for themselves. However, if you encounter any of these genres of music on YouTube, you are very likely to have stylish looping gifs of 80s anime on the video, as not only is it period appropriate, it fits with the overall vibe of the music, glamorous summery vibes in pastel colors. Which brings us back to Orange Road, as not too long ago on one of the many city pop playlists you could find here on YouTube, I came across one that had a gif from Orange Road featuring a girl coolly playing a saxophone. Shit was so my aesthetic, I immediately had to check out the series for myself, and after watching the series in its entirety, I want to talk about it. Kimagure Orange Road is a romantic comedy series with a supernatural twist that came from a manga and weekly Shonen Jump in the 80s. Which initially took me by surprise, as while Jump is no stranger to other genres like comedy, thrillers, and romance, but especially during the 80s, a lot of the attention was put on its battle manga, with some of its most iconic series like Fist of the North Star, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, Saint Seiya, Dragon Ball, and many others getting their starts and dominating the lineup. Despite that, Orange Road, a romantic comedy, still saw a great amount of success in sales, anime, and games. In some countries, it was even considered a gateway series for many new fans, on the same level as Dragon Ball and Sailor Moon were for many American fans. With all that said, what is the series even all about? Orange Road follows Kasuga Kyosuke, who comes from a family of Espers, trying to live a simple normal life, but his family is pretty bad at concealing their abilities and are constantly moving. However, after Kyosuke comes across a mysterious beauty on the first day of the new move, Kyosuke decides to keep his family in line so he can stay in town and get to know this girl a bit better. Turns out this girl is in his high school, but despite the great first impression, it's revealed that the mysterious beauty is a rather infamous delinquent named Ayukawa Madoka, also known as Madoka the Pick, for using guitar picks as her signature weapon when fighting other delinquents. Yeah, delinquent girls, or sukuban, with strange weaponry was pretty popular back in the 80s, and kinda needs to make a comeback. Despite the cold exterior at school, Kyosuke still pursues Madoka in order to see more of the side of her he met before. While doing so, Kyosuke attracts the attention of Madoka's best friend, Hikaru, a hyper-energetic girl who's also a bit of a delinquent herself, that falls madly in love with Kyosuke, after witnessing him make an amazing basketball shot, not knowing it was all thanks to his psychic powers. Hikaru instantly declares Kyosuke as her boyfriend, and with him being pretty surprised, goes along with it. However, his heart still wants Madoka. With Hikaru's relationship with Madoka, Kyosuke is put in a hard place, as his true feelings could divide these two close friends, but the longer this relationship goes on, the harder it becomes to break the news. Orange Road mainly follows the struggles Kyosuke faces in order to get closer to Madoka, while also trying to figure out how to deal with Hikaru on top of the many supernatural problems he finds himself in, whether it be psychic meddling from his family, or even situations he winds up accidentally creating himself. Adding to the madness are our side characters here, being Kyosuke's family, including his sisters, cousins, and grandparents. Then there's Komatsu and Hata, the local perverts and Kyosuke's friends, who honestly seem more interested in hooking up with his sisters, as well as Yusaku, a martial artist and childhood friend of Madoka and Hikaru, who hates Kyosuke, as he loves Hikaru and can't stand to see her with someone else, made even worse with Kyosuke's unfaithful behavior with Hikaru. Orange Road has all the comfy intimate moments, melodrama, mishaps, and misunderstandings you'd expect out of a romantic comedy of this nature. While I don't recall laughing out loud much throughout the series, I did always find it entertaining, thanks to the character dynamics and fun situations brought by the psychic powers. The cast is pretty simple character-wise for the most part, but thanks to the series having them all interact through school, trips, and just hanging around town, we get a lot of fun interactions and scenarios when mixed together in some episodes, while also making them feel more like a real group of friends. There is a whole episode here that is just a showing of a fan film the characters made together, which is full of parodies and references of things that were popular at the time, like Top Gun, Godzilla, Ultraman, and a whole lot more. Even though this episode doesn't have much to do with the core plot, it still was a fun and memorable episode, and showing that there's a lot more to these characters than just rom-com antics. But what really spices things up in Orange Road is the psychic powers. Kyosuke has telekinesis and teleportation abilities, but he also comes across and even discovers new abilities for himself throughout the anime, like hypnosis, which he does on himself on a few occasions, body swapping, time stopping, and time slipping, which he does literally. As occasionally when he slips, he winds up slipping a bit into the past, which usually makes for the more iconic episodes of the anime. In terms of all the antics and getting to know the characters, I had a lot of fun with this anime. However, its more romantic side did bother me at times, personally speaking. In the beginning, the series frames itself as a love triangle in which both girls have a fair chance in ending up with Kyosuke, but that is certainly not the case here. There is no best girl debate to be had here, as it's very clearly Madoka. While Hikaru does affectionately love Kyosuke and is technically dating him, but with most of the series being Kyosuke trying to be alone with Madoka, Hikaru winds up becoming more of an obstacle for the two, which makes me feel really bad for Hikaru in a lot of episodes, as she's this big ball of sunshine that sure can get a bit annoying at times with her childishness, but she's still important and close to a lot of characters in the series. There is an episode later on where Kyosuke kind of hopes Hikaru gets sick so he could spend the entire day with Madoka, which, like, wow, rude. When one of his sisters hears this, she punishes him by inserting him into a lifelike dream where Hikaru dies of sickness and everyone he knows starts falling apart. That episode aside, Kyosuke does care for Hikaru, but more like a friend, making their relationship pretty hard to watch at times. Eventually, a good portion of the cast start to catch on and realize Kyosuke isn't that into Hikaru either, which had me wanting to yell at the screen on multiple occasions. But then again, this is a teen romance series, and I'm sure as many people know, even in real life, those can be messy, confusing, and frustrating at times. But in that sense, it works on another side of the series, as Orange Road is just as much of a coming-of-age story as it is a rom-com. Kyosuke and a few other characters within the series have to grow up and be truly honest with their emotions. That being said, the romantic struggle isn't properly concluded in the original anime or OVA series, which is basically more of the same. That conclusion doesn't happen till the movies, which we'll get into later, but for now, let's actually look at our main leads here, being Kyosuke and Madoka. Kyosuke, in a lot of ways outside his psychic powers, is a fairly average guy. But I don't think that makes him a totally boring character, as I've seen a few people point out online when talking about this series. He's not a complete blank slate. He stands up for his family and friends, can get jealous and selfish at times, which sometimes escalates to these big crazy events that bite him in the butt in the end. Like jumping to wild conclusions in the beginning of the series when he sees Madoka hanging out with older guys, which are normally just family friends. Also, to be expected out of any teen boy, our dude Kyosuke here is kinda horny. Now, to be fair, some of the perverted situations he finds himself in are typical accidents you'd find in these types of series. or him being hypnotized in an episode, either changing his personality or easily being influenced by others' commands, both of which occasionally lead to some uncomfortable moments. For the most part, Kyosuke can control his teen lust. However, there are 2 episodes here back to back where the dude was about to get it on, or at least heavily thinking he was going to get it on, with girls he meets in those episodes. Nothing really happens, and he does come off a bit regretful in those episodes, as a lot of those situations were brought on by 2 of his biggest flaws in being way too timid and indecisive, which is how he sort of found himself in the main predicament of the series with Hikaru. Like I mentioned earlier, Orange Road is also a coming-of-age story. So over the course of the series, Kyosuke slowly starts to understand the problems his flaws can bring, and even tries to fix them in some episodes. While personality-wise he isn't as over the top as the rest of the cast here, I don't think Kyosuke is such a blank slate. Rather, I think he was made this way to be a lot more relatable to the viewers. As outside the psychic powers and hopefully the love triangles, Kyosuke goes through a lot of what the series' typical viewer would go through as a teen. Which is part of the reason why I feel this series connected to so many during its initial run, and even to this day for that matter, as if you're someone older, a lot of the normal struggles Kyosuke faces may feel a bit nostalgic. But speaking of things that got Orange Road popular, without a doubt, Madoka herself is a big reason. Chances are, if you look up the series online, you will be flooded with pictures of Madoka, as she's truly the most interesting character of the series and gets the most development. She's mysterious, cool, mature, and a total badass. Some episodes of the series actually focus more on Madoka's delinquent side, feeling almost like a completely different anime, where Madoka fights off waves of delinquents, or goes on rescue missions featuring crazy showdowns like skateboarding down an abandoned construction area. On top of that, she's multi-talented, as she's a wrestler, pro surfer, and horseback rider, a great singer, and talented in a variety of other instruments. And she may have possibly killed someone in an episode. In the OVA series during a Hawaiian vacation, Hikaru is kidnapped being mistaken for a rich heiress. Kyosuke and Madoka go and search for her, and Madoka gets a gun. She doesn't shoot the kidnappers directly, just aiming for the wheel of the car, but judging from that crash, I feel the dude behind the wheel probably died. Though that never gets brought up. Madoka is just cool as hell, almost feeling too cool for anyone in the series at times. I could honestly just watch a whole anime strictly following Madoka's over-the-top delinquent adventures, but as cool and seemingly mature she can be, at the start of the anime she was heading towards a pretty dangerous path. Despite being 15, she was seen smoking and drinking a lot, had a habit of exerting herself, and avoided getting closer to most people at school outside of Hikaru and Yusaku. And slowly as the series progresses, we start to understand why she may have turned out this way. But luckily, she finds herself getting out of this path of self-destruction thanks to Kyosuke, who stops her underage bad habits and kind of forces her to be more sociable and open, gaining more friends and being able to be more comfortable with herself. As Kyosuke is able to see a side of Madoka that not many get to see, a softer side that is extremely caring, scared of ghosts, and maybe even a bit of a trickster. As seen in an episode where Kyosuke thinks he may have accidentally hypnotized Madoka to obey his every command, but after a series of events and close encounters throughout the episode, it turns out she was just playing along the whole time, and there are a few other episodes where she pulls something off similar. While the aesthetics of the series are what hooked me in, I can't deny that seeing her and Kyosuke get closer and grow both as themselves and as a couple being what kept me going. But still, those aesthetics are amazing. I might be a bit biased here, as 80s anime is probably one of my favorites visually, with the colors, simplicity, and super fluffy hair many characters had during the time period, all of which Orange Road has in spades, and of course that nostalgic city pop vibe with its pretty pastel colors, setting, and all around good vibes that capture that feeling of fun summers long since past. But I'm talking about like the heavily romanticized summer, as depending where you are in the world, summer is absolute hell. But visually, the series has a lot more going on than just pure vibes to be looped on a YouTube playlist. Every episode either ends or has moments somewhere of a freeze frame that zooms out to be a photo of said scene, which was a nice touch as not only does it do a great job in capturing Kyosuke's thoughts in an episode, it also relates to him as a character, as his dad is a photographer, and as we find out later in the series, he winds up becoming one himself. Having these scenes also further boosts the overall nostalgic feel of Orange Road, as these moments at times come off as a fond look back to someone's younger years, going through all their personal highlights and blunders. On top of the photographs, the series wowed me a few times with some amazing visuals and shots in some of its more dramatic episodes, or time-traveling ones where they go a bit more all out. But the visuals of Orange Road weren't the only thing to have a city pop vibe, as even the music here is full of that city pop goodness. I listen to the OST quite often now, especially during the writing of the script, and all of the opening and endings are great, coming from Hideyuki Nagashima, Kaneko Wada, Masanori Keita, and Meiko Nakahara, all of which are amazing. My favorite opening song-wise might be Orange Mystery by Hideyuki Nagashima, but visually I love Actress in the Mirror by Meiko Nakahara, with everything flowing together throughout the opening, making it not only a good listen, but also a good watch. Speaking of Meiko Nakahara, she also does the third ending, being Sweet Memories, which was a total shocker to me, as I used to listen to that song all the time back in university without ever knowing it was used in an anime. Speaking of endings though, let's talk about those movies. Being Kimagure Orange Road, I Want to Return to That Day, and New Kimagure Orange Road, and then The Beginning of That Summer. Yeah, pretty fancy titles there. The first movie, I Want to Return to That Day, is a rather interesting one. Not only is a movie that picks up the plot of a TV series and concludes a major part of the story not too common with anime, especially at the time, but the movie isn't what most would expect out of an Orange Road movie in the first place. Gone are the goofy hijinks and psychic powers. This movie is a lot more grounded and mature, as it increases the romantic drama of Orange Road, as this movie is basically the big breakup movie. Kyosuke and Madoka are getting ready for college, and it's now time for Kyosuke to be honest with himself and Hikaru, and finally break up. While unexpected, this movie was still a welcome surprise in how it went about itself, being very real and emotional. While it does conclude a part of the series, it doesn't feel like a proper conclusion to Orange Road in its entirety, as like I mentioned, this is just the breakup movie, with the movie ending after the big breakup, which, oh man, fuck. I originally watched this movie early in the morning, which was a mistake as I was an emotional wreck for a good portion of the day. But then we have the next Orange Road movie, and then The Beginning of That Summer, which at first I didn't even know was a thing. Again, I went to the series mostly blind and was watching it on Verve, which had everything for Orange Road beside this movie, which as it turns out is because a long time ago it was licensed by ADV Films, also making this movie the only part of Orange Road you can watch dubbed, though not the greatest. That aside, this is a strange movie that even most Orange Road fans are sort of split on, following Kyosuke, now 19, properly dating Madoka. One day he has a strange dream of being told to watch out for a car. He doesn't, but instead of dying, he is sent a few years into the future, where future Kyosuke was recently shot taking photos in Bosnia, leading to past Kyosuke needing to meet with future Kyosuke to get sent back to his proper time, as well as catch up with some of the other cast now even older. It's a strange movie. I mean, it's nice to see the characters here and what they're doing all these years later, as well as seeing Kyosuke and Madoka properly dating, which feels so rewarding after watching the series in its entirety. And we really get to see that romantic progress here. Besides that, the more noticeable element of this movie is its art style, which was changed for a more 90s type, and while it's not bad by any means, I'm not exactly a big fan of it. Part of my love for Orange Road as a series was for its comfy, colorful aesthetic, and that's gone here, replacing it with a bit more of a realistic redesign of the characters and muted colors, making this movie visually feel bland when compared to the rest of Orange Road. The movie itself overall is a bit of a mixed bag for me, as while it definitely has moments that make it worth it, as someone who's watched all of the series up to this point, like seeing Hikaru get some closure after the events of the last movie, and of course seeing Kyosuke and Madoka here as a couple. The actual story here is alright, being slow in a lot of places, some of the time traveling stuff is a bit confusing, and again this movie is trying to be a conclusion to Orange Road, but it doesn't feel wholly complete. Very much like the last movie, Shin Orange Road barely gives the spotlight to its side characters, with some even being omitted like Yusaku, who doesn't even show up in this movie, as well as the last, which is strange considering his whole thing was trying to confess to Hikaru, and he's just gone after the OVAs. At least anime-wise. I haven't read the manga fully yet, but I did read the final chapter after watching everything for Orange Road, just to see if I could get a more complete feeling there, which I definitely did, so if I've convinced you to give this anime a try, maybe be wary of that. All that said, Orange Road was a very unique anime experience for me. I haven't dived headfirst in an anime since I was early into high school, so it was a refreshing watch. I'm not sure if the series would rank among my favorites, but it definitely is one I will reflect on for a long time coming. An anime that from start to finish was full of beautiful nostalgic summer vibes, featuring two mysterious teens learning in their love for each other to be more open with themselves. Well, as a rom-com and once popular jump title, Kimagure Orange Road isn't talked about much these days, but despite that, it still has a very strong and loving fanbase around the world. Something that I think would make the series creator, Izumi Matsumoto, proud, who we unfortunately lost last year. Orange Road is his most notable work, as well he did have a few other series he worked on and plenty of ideas for others that he was unfortunately unable to make due to a spinal disease. He still created something very special in taking a risky idea and creating a romance-focused manga in the most popular, heavily boy-targeted manga magazine that was seeing rise to some of its most iconic action series, but through its fun and unique perspective and making it especially relatable to its target audience, Orange Road became a hit amongst its hot-blooded contemporaries. If you're like me and loves city pop and its aesthetic, a fan of the many series Jump has had in its catalog, or just even a fan of romantic comedies, I would highly recommend this classic. Take me to the summer side to dance in the sweet memories. Hope you enjoyed this video. It took a bit longer to come out than I originally expected, but a lot of footage to edit, a whole anime, OVAs, and 2 movies. If you liked the video and want to support me, consider either checking out my Patreon or even my Ko-fi page. I'd greatly appreciate it, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace out.